Hey, it's Melanie. Welcome back to Lonesome Acre Homestead. This morning, I have already chopped up some onions and we are going to make more onion powder. We've been doing this recently and my kids really enjoy the process. My very best friend gave me this dehydrator that she doesn't use and she knows I'll get really good use out of it. Next, I'm going ahead and warming up my jars because I have some leftover vegetable soup that my husband made and I did not want it to go to waste. I went ahead and warmed up my soup, got my jars warm, so that way I can pressure can them. And I am pressure canning them according to meat standards because they do have bits of ham in there. Once my jars are warm and my soup is warm, I'm going to go ahead and take all of those out and prepare to fill them. I do start with a slotted spoon to fill my mason jars with the vegetables and the meat, and then I go ahead and add any extra juice to it to fill it up. No worries though, this juice does not go to waste. I do not have a debubbler, so I just used a wooden skewer that we had. And of course, we're going to go ahead and wipe off our jars before we add those lids to it and get to canning. I do have this, which I forgot to use. As you can see, I was like, a little bit irritated with myself, but that's okay. So we're going to put our lids on, and then once we get our rims on, we want to make sure that we are only putting them on finger tight. If you notice you have any extra moisture on your jars, make sure you go ahead and wipe those off and go ahead and secure those rims. Like I said, finger tight. I like to go ahead and wipe down any extra moisture on the jars or the lids that I may notice before I do put them in the canner. That is not something that you have to do. That is just something that I do because obviously they are going in water. So it really doesn't make a difference. It's just a preference for me to double check everything before I do put them in the canner, whether it's a water bath or a pressure canner. If you are going to water bath can or a pressure can, make sure that you get one of these handy dandy can grabbers. I'm not quite sure what they are called, but either way, they are perfect to use and they are super helpful. Here's what my jars are going to look like as soon as they get into the canner. Make sure that they are separated and they are not touching because they are glass and they can break each other. Making sure your pressure canner is tight and the lid is locked. Go ahead and put your weights on. The first thing that we are going to look for is for our pressure knob to pop up, which is right here. And the second thing that we are going to look for is for our jiggler to start moving. And that is going to be when our timer stops. This is going to be the pressure. We'll know that our canner has pressure at that point, and once our jiggler starts to move, that is when we are going to know we are under pressure that we need to be at. And once our weight starts moving, then we know that we are starting our timer. For this, I did 90 minutes. Which you know you're ready to open the top when the jiggler has stopped and your pressure knob is all the way down. I still wait about 5 minutes after it's gone, after it's totally down, before I open my pressure canner, just to be totally safe. And the first thing that you always want to make sure that you are doing when you are pressure canning, when you're taking off that lid, is that you open it away from you because that steam can be very hot. Once you have the lid removed, then you can go ahead and take your jar grabbers, whatever you want to call them, and you can take that out. I can hear as I am taking my jars out of the pressure canner that they do already have a really good seal because they are popping as they are coming out. But either way, I'm going to keep that outer rim on my jars for at least 24 hours before I take those off and I double check my seal. Here's what they look like about 20 minutes after they have come out of the pressure canner, and as you can see, they are still bubbling. They are still doing their job, making sure that we keep that good seal, and I'm really happy about that. Next, I'm going to make cupcakes. We have a lot of school things coming up this week. My oldest is gluten and dairy free, and I found this mix for cake or cupcakes for my oldest child. It does not contain dairy or gluten, so I figured this would just be the easiest thing to do, since he does have a classmate who has a birthday this week and they have Christmas parties. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a batch of these cupcakes, that way he can have plenty of them for this week and feel included. Usually once I start baking, one of my kids wants to be included, which is totally fine, doesn't bother me a bit. And my oldest says that he's been working on his egg cracking skills, therefore he wanted to help me to crack these eggs into the mixing bowl. The other bucket that you see is our pig bucket, and they really enjoyed those eggshells as well. So he did do a really good job. He didn't get any eggshells into the batter, which he appreciates as well as I do. And he is, my little helper, which I really appreciate. And both kids take turns helping out in the kitchen. I think that they enjoy learning just as much as I do. This KitchenAid is brand new to me, and I will have and use any excuse to use it. Next, we're going to go ahead and get these cupcakes in the cupcake liners. I hated these cupcake liners, and here is a little moment that we have for our short girls who can't reach the things in the tall cabinet. Once we get our cupcakes filled, of course, we're just going to go ahead and pop those bad boys in the oven. The toothpick method for making sure that food is done is always best from what I found. And as I told you, this vegetable broth will not go to waste, so I'm just going to freeze it because it is still soup season. To finalize my day in the kitchen, I am going to go ahead and get supper in the oven while we wait for these cupcakes to cool, and we are going to put on a Christmas movie, decorate cupcakes, and enjoy time as a family. Have a wonderful day. Happy homesteading.